Love, love, until I feel the breath of thy spirit flowing in me.
Hello, welcome to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Kerryn Redpath. She's a drug and alcohol educator awareness at schools. Hi.
Hi Geraldine, how are you?
Yeah, welcome to Spirit of Life.
Thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here.
How did you get involved with education in a drug and alcohol awareness?
Well, it certainly wasn't something that I planned in my life. I actually made a huge mistake myself when I was young and naive and followed the crowd into the party scene with, a bit of drinking, smoking and bit of marijuana, and the doors opened and I headed down that path into drugs and alcohol. But unfortunately for me, or maybe fortunately in the long run, I ended up, after some years of using, with drug-related heart and kidney failure. I was rushed into the Alfred Hospital in Melbourne, and at one point I was in the coronary care unit, and I was given less than 2 hours to live. In fact, my family were told that I would die at any moment, and amazingly and miraculously I survived.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's years later that after I've been blessed with 3 beautiful children, that I've started to speak in schools and to warn young children, young teenagers. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you realize that, when you took drugs, that it would lead you to this path?
Absolutely not. I was just a teenager having a bit of fun, and then it went on into my 20s. I was 25, as I said, when I nearly died, and that was the end for me. I spent almost 5 months in hospital. Very ill. I had multiple grand mal seizures, like convulsions. I had one that left me in a coma for 3 days. I had 2 code blues where the emergency alarms were ringing through the hospital. My blood pressure was so high. It was a horrible time for me, and I came out very frail, even though I did survive. So certainly wasn't a path I thought I'd take in my life. I was just young, thinking I was having a bit of fun. Yeah.
Yes. And did you find that your parents were aware of what was happening to you?
My parents were not aware at all. I moved out of home at 19, and so a lot of this happened. And I didn't intend to become hooked on drugs, to become addicted. And most people who use drugs have no intention of becoming an addict. When I say that, I was actually what you'd call a functioning addict. After I moved back to Melbourne, after 3 years of living down the country, I had a full-time office job, but I used drugs, marijuana, every night after work, and the harder drugs, heroin and speed in particular, 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a week.
Wow.
But I thought I had it under control. Yeah. Of course, I look back now and see it quite differently. So.
And how were you able to support your habit?
Working. As I said, I worked full-time. I also didn't use, many heroin addicts might use 3, 4 times a day or more, 5, 6 times a day, whereas because it was a few times a week, we managed to scrape by. We did also, run out of money, borrow money occasionally here and there, but we were sort of supporting our own habit, our own problem. My partner actually inherited some money at one stage, and, that was unfortunate. We blew a lot of that on the drugs as well.
Yes.
And as I said before with my parents, the day that they found out that I was using drugs was the day I was given less than 2 hours to live. So, you hide it from your parents. It's not something you tell them about. So, yeah.
And did you find that, how did you get involved in the education side?
Well, what happened was, years later, I've been blessed with 3 beautiful children. And of course, for years I was raising my children. And when they were older, I wrote a book called Out of the Darkness, which I've got a copy of if you want to have a look here.
Sure.
And a teacher read my book and looked me up on Facebook and invited me to go and speak at the school where he taught. And I was terrified of public speaking. If you handed me a microphone, my heart would pound so hard that it felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. And I'd have this, because I've had heart failure, this voice would be telling me, you're going to die here. But one day I realised this is not about me, and I shared with this school, and it went so well. I had an amazing question time. That was year 10s, I think, maybe 11s, the first group I spoke with. And it went so well that I realised I've got something here, I've got a message, you know.
Yes.
I've been left with slightly damaged kidneys. I've been on medication since I was 25. I'm doing really well. I've been totally blessed to survive it all and to have children. But, you know, many people don't survive drug addiction or even alcohol, and, you know, it can destroy so many lives that I started to contact other schools and speak in other schools. And I've got a message that's now I've delivered over 200 presentations now. In Melbourne, Sydney and Adelaide, and you know, it's hard work, but I'm really passionate about it. So yeah.
What do you present at during your talks?
During my talks, well, first of all, I share some of my own story, of course, and I talk about things like, you know, I intertwine facts and stories. I've got information about the brain and risk taking, about different drugs and their side effects on people, also what to do in an emergency. My message speaks to the whole person. I talk to a lot of people using drugs. There's two main categories that drug users come under. There's those like me who just follow the crowd and want to fit in and end up, you know, with a drug problem. And then there's those who've been through some sort of trauma in life and they use drugs or alcohol to numb out pain. And so those students who may be in that situation, I put them onto help services. I've got a list of different help services. I also recommend they see someone in their school welfare team, kids helpline. There's government services. You know, I do what I can to try and direct them onto something other than using drugs and alcohol. As I said, I've got lots of other stories apart from mine and clips as well in there that are really designed to show young people that things can really go badly wrong and you need to be careful about the choices you're making. I end up my message with hope. And when I look back where I went wrong, I didn't have a vision or a dream or a goal for my life, and I really encourage them to have some sort of, you know, dream or goal in their life, even if it changes along the way, or a goal for each year or something like that, to give their life purpose so they don't just drift in life. Because when you're drifting, that's when it's so easy to slip down that slippery slope of drug use. Yeah,
it's fantastic. You're sharing, and it's very inspiring. We need to go for a break.
Okay.
You're watching Spirit of Life. We'll be back after the break. Hello, welcome back to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Kerryn Redpath, who is a school drug and alcohol awareness educator. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Yes. Kerryn, you spoke very inspiringly about your passion and your work with young people at schools. What is your main message at the school, and what underpins it?
I guess because of the amount that I've seen, the damage that, you know, that I've personally suffered and what I've seen in so many others, I want to make sure young people are really aware that drugs can destroy lives. Drugs and alcohol can destroy lives. And I know not everybody ends up dead or destroying their life, but I guess it's like playing a game of Russian roulette. You don't know if you're going to be the one that's going to be affected. Nobody gets into drugs and alcohol thinking that they're going to end up with a big problem. And yet, you know, we've got a massive problem across this country and across the world. You know, we've actually got at the moment, apparently, it was announced recently that we have double the amount of people waiting to get into rehabs as what we have rehab spaces.
Wow.
So that just shows, you know, what a massive problem this is. And I want people to realise that they might think it might start out as a bit of fun, but it doesn't always end up that way. Yeah.
So that's the why. You have regrets about your drug taking, obviously.
Oh, look, do you know, I had a student ask me at a school last year, do you regret what you did in the past? Or are you glad because of what you're doing now? And that actually really shook me, that question. It was coming from a year 8 student, and I actually had to fight back tears as I said, I regret so much what I did. You know, what the pain that it's put me through, my family through, and the trauma and the side effects. And look, I'm doing really well now, and I'm just so blessed that I am. But if I could turn back the clock and change that, I would do that in a heartbeat. But at the same time, I'm using my knowledge and experience to try and, educate young people.
Yes.
Yeah, on this
so
topic. Yeah.
Tell us about that point where you had that overdose and what was happening with your family, because that could help people really picture it.
It wasn't an overdose. I did overdose a few times while I was using drugs and was resuscitated by other people, which is pretty scary in itself. I've got another story in my book where my partner overdosed, and I was by myself in the middle of the night with him. He'd been drinking before using heroin, and it took me nearly 40 minutes in the middle of the night by myself to get him breathing, which was terrifying. But what happened to me was I contracted hepatitis B, and my antibodies attacked my body rather than the disease. And we didn't know what was going on. It took 6 months till I gradually became sicker and sicker, and I hit the hospital at a point where I was given less than 2 hours to live. My kidney, I had less than 5% function in both kidneys, and my heart was beating 300 to 400 times a minute. It was so enlarged, and it was my heart they said would take me out. Yeah, so I'm really, really fortunate to have survived. Yeah, amazingly. I had a lot of people praying for me. I really believe in the power of prayer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think that the media glamorizes it too much? Because obviously there's a degree of excitement and glamour for young people.
Probably, maybe more in the past that the media has glamorised it more. I think more what you see in the media now is the dramatic side of drugs and alcohol and the effects, the deaths. Just this morning there was the news of the tragic death of a young 17-year-old boy in New South Wales after smoking synthetic marijuana, and 2 other people not related, not friends of his, were also hospitalised over the weekend from smoking synthetic marijuana. Yeah, which is, so many people think that this is harmless, and it's not. Even the same with regular grown marijuana these days. It's hydroponically grown, it's higher in THC, which is the component that can lead to psychosis or just paranoia, schizophrenia, depression. It's lower in the CBD chemicals. It also, as far as I'm concerned, can be a gateway drug to other drugs as well. So it's the media, I guess, getting back to the media side of it, I think more now you see the dramatic side of it, the devastating side effects of the problems of drugs and alcohol.
Yeah. And how do the young people respond when you go to the schools and give these presentations?
The response I get from young people has been fantastic. I see, and I actually had a report from a friend of mine sitting in a presentation recently, I see people walking with a bit of a swagger, oh yeah, another drug and alcohol presentation. But by the end, I see a total change, and that comes in the questions that I get, in the feedback that I get, and it's really, really amazing knowing that I've left them with a bit of information that they didn't have before, and an understanding that, hey, this could be dangerous, or I really want to head down that path. And of course, I really give them encourage them to think about their future, to start thinking about doing something. There's nothing wrong with enjoying a bit of life, but think about enjoying it in other ways. Get involved in sports, or look towards your career, whether you've got hobbies that you love or something. I try to encourage them to bring other things into their life so that they're not left with nothing to do and head down that path.
Yes, there's a lot of young people they like to experience life and have excitement. It's good that you mentioned things like doing activities that reach your goals.
And there's some real adrenaline rush activities that you can get into, but they're activities, that sports and things that have calculated risks, I guess. Like, I love horse riding. That can be dangerous,
yes.
But it's a lot of fun, and it's quite an adrenaline rush, particularly when you're on having a really fast ride on a great horse, or I did a little bit of dressage and showing. It's exciting doing that. Having a powerful animal that you're controlling. Motorbike riding, some people do skydiving. Not me. That's not for me. Don't like heights that much, but. I had, going back to the response to the students, I had a student, year 11 student last year, and towards the end of the year, stand up at the end. He was given the task of officially thanking me for my presentation. He said, "That was amazing. I think you've just saved 100 lives."
Wow. And
I just said, "I sure hope so." I'm getting there's no guarantees, but I'm doing the best I can to really inform the kids, so they make good choices. Yeah.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
it's great, you know, and it would the parents would be probably very happy that you would share this.
I sure hope so. I sure hope so. I think as a parent myself, I would. The sort of message that I'm sharing is one that I would want my children to hear when they were in school.
Yep, I might need to pause you because
Yep.
we need to go for an advert.
Yep. Oh, sure.
You're watching Spirit of Life, and we'll be back after the break.
Blow till I hear but breath of the Spirit blowing in me. Blow, blow till I hear but breath of the Spirit blowing in me.
Hello, welcome back to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Kerryn Redpath, who is a school drug and alcohol awareness educator. Welcome back again.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Yeah, so Kerryn, I was wondering what the teachers felt about your presentations to the students.
I've been getting an amazing response from teachers. Do you know it can take me a couple of years to get into schools. You email and speak to teachers, but until they actually see their presentation, they don't know what they're booking. And I've had teachers say, I can't believe it took so long to get you here. We definitely want you back next year. I've had a teacher last year say, those boys asking the most questions, they're the ones that we've been most concerned about. I had another 2 teachers, welfare teachers and a psychologist saying to me, the message that you're teaching is just what we're covering, and it's the way that we speak to the students and want them to hear. So, you know, they want me back again. So
That's fantastic.
I guess I'm very natural and open in my presentation. I'm very honest with the kids when they ask, the students when they ask questions. I tell them they can ask whatever they like. I don't have all of the answers, but I'll give it a go. And I love kids as well, and
that's fantastic.
Yeah, connect, and the teachers love the way I share my message. Very honestly, yeah. Yeah.
Do you speak to parents too?
I have. Last year was asked to do a parent information evening, and I had this planned in the back of my head, but I'd never done one. So I now have a full presentation, parent information presentation.
Oh, wow.
It went really well. You can tell by the parents nodding and all the rest of it, and question time at the end.
Yeah.
I talked to them about different drugs, the side effects, what to look for, all of that. I've got a lot of different information in there, and about, you know, opening up the question, the topic with their kids, you know. So yeah, I'm really keen to
wow.
share my message with more parent and staff.
So do you
evenings,
do
yeah.
research? Like, so you must spend quite a bit of time researching.
I do a lot of research. I do a lot of reading. I get information sent to me from different organisations all the time that have statistics and all sorts of information on drugs and alcohol. And then, of course, you keep in touch with what's going on in the media as well, the real life stories as well. So,
it's great
yeah.
you keep up, and I suppose that many people have this burning question about ice. What's your opinion about ice?
Ice is a very scary drug. It's look, it's not as prolific in our country as alcohol. That still is the drug that causes the most problems in this country. Alcohol is, and in fact across the world. But ice has a more dramatic effect on people. You know, not everybody has the same effect the first time, but it can really cause paranoia, psychosis, aggression, and violence. Very, very addictive. It releases massive amounts of dopamine in the brain, and, you know, then users, when they come down off that, they go into a very, very low state and desperately want to use more. It's quite very addictive, destructive, and unfortunately, eventually, what it also can do from long-term users is damage the dopamine transporters within the brain, and then a person is using just to feel normal. You know, this is when you see real addiction setting in, yeah. So it's a pretty powerful, scary drug, yeah. And so many young people are, and actually people of all ages are trying this, yeah.
And your work is mainly prevention, isn't it?
Well, harm minimisation has been around for 30 years, and of course we want to minimise harm. But what would be even better would be prevention. Like, you know, prevention is better than cure. They say for every dollar you spend in prevention, you save $10 in cure. So of course I'd love to prevent people from heading down that path, but naturally we want to minimise harm as well. So, you know, my message is covering everything I can to really encourage, you know, students to
Yes.
To be aware, to be aware.
Yeah, and what would you like to say to someone in the throes of drug addiction, dependency? Is there some...
Well, my area is more in the area of prevention, but what I have done is I have met with a number of people battling drug addiction, and I tend to talk to them about their future. What do you think? Do you see 10 years ahead? What do you think life has for you in store? And get them to start to think about, I actually do want to get it together. I do want to do something about this. And I tend to guide people onto, rehabs or some sort of other actual addiction help, because that's not my specific area. My area is more trying to get in before they get to that place.
Yeah, that's
but
fantastic.
Look, I've been absolutely so humbled by the fact that my story in my book has led several people into rehab. And many people, quite a few people have overcome drug addiction either just on their own or with the help of rehab after reading my story.
So it's called Out of Darkness.
Out of the Darkness.
Out of the Darkness.
Yep. And it's been amazing. It's just opened so many doors for me to get into schools and also to help people. Yeah.
And what would you say to parents who have children who have drug dependency? What would you say? That's
a really, really tough one. You've got to keep loving your children, and you've got to do whatever you can to get them the help that they need. Get onto the rehab services or the detox services and speak to people who work in that area to work out how you can start to help them. Yeah, I mean, sometimes in some cases tough love comes into it. If you've got a child that just is continually breaking all of the rules and ignoring everything you do, sometimes you've just got to toughen up, and that's a different level for different people. But, always be there for them when they turn to you and cry out for help in one way or another. And I don't mean by supporting their habit, but by finding help for them,
Yeah, that's wonderful. You've really got a great understanding of drug and alcohol addiction.
I wish I didn't. It's a journey I wish I never ever took, and it's a journey I wish I wasn't on, but look, if my story and my message can help one person, it's worth it. Yeah. But from what I've been told, it's helped more. Yeah.
And what is the thing that keeps you going?
The thing that keeps me going is that it feels like a calling. I feel like this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is the path that I'm meant to be going down, because of where I've been, what I've seen, what I've what I've lived with as well. I've lived with addicted people as well, and it's really affected me and others around us. I just feel like this is a calling. So this is what and when you see someone say, like the young student saying, "I think you've just saved us 100 lives," when you hear teachers say, wow,
yes,
those students that ask those questions are the ones we've been most concerned about. And some of the questions are really, really good questions.
Yes.
It makes it worthwhile.
You've been so inspiring, and unfortunately we have to go now.
Thank you.
But we'd like to have you back, and it'll be great.
I'd love to
next
come
week.
Back. That'd be wonderful.
So goodbye and God bless, and see you next week.
Thank you so much. See you then.
You've been watching Spirit of Life. And that's all for our program today. Join us again next week. Goodbye and God bless you.
Bring it to birth and blow where you will. Blow, blow, blow till I be but breath of the Spirit.